Hello, I'm Esther Githu-Ewart. It's Wednesday, May 18th. This is Africa 54.
Somalia's newly elected president, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, addresses the top challenges and issues affecting his country. The United Nations warns that Ethiopia's war in Tigray may cost over 1 million children a third year of education. And a South African-based startup is working to empower women and young people by reducing the gender digital divide.
Somalia's newly elected president Hassan Sheikh Mohamud on Tuesday thanked his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden for ordering the redeployment of American troops to the Horn of Africa nation to combat the Al-Shabaab terrorist group. The move reverses an order from Biden's predecessor Donald Trump, who in late 2020 pulled nearly all U.S. forces from Somalia. In an interview with VOA's Palestine Iman in Mogadishu, President Mohamud spoke about the troop redeployment and U.S. humanitarian assistance to his country.
That was a very good step taken towards the right direction by the President of the United States, President Biden. The United States is the biggest supporter and the biggest donor in Somalia in terms of humanitarian everything, and on top of it, the United States is the biggest donor as well in the security and the defense. So that by taking that, by reversing the past decision of former President Donald Trump, it was absolutely timely and a very good decision. The Somali people receives that decision very well, and we're looking forward to receive that support. The United States not only give us money and material, but they give us their own blood and their own lives to liberate Somalia. Yes, the roads are very difficult. I'm going to appoint a special envoy for the drought in the country, and it's also a very difficult time at this time. People lost their livestock. People has not the old types of farming and production. So Somalia is not in a security risk of Al-Shabaab and physical security only, but also food security. There is a serious matter of food security, and that's going to be part of the overall security of Somalia. So the United States in that regard is also the biggest donor in supporting humanitarian aid for Somalia.
That was Somalia's newly elected president, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, speaking to VOA. The United Nations says Ethiopia's war on the Tigray region means more than 1 million children are entering their third school year without education. Schools in neighboring regions are reopening as fighters and displaced people that occupied them leave, but some face grim challenges, including trauma. Henry Wilkins reports from Gashena, Ethiopia.
A total of 1.39 million children in Tigray region are currently missing out on education due to Ethiopia's civil war, according to the United Nations. While journalists are banned from entering Tigray, in the neighbouring Amhara region, schools are beginning to reopen after much of the region was occupied by Tigrayan forces until December.
Here at Gashena Prep School, the TPLF used the classrooms as a base. They filled a mass grave with bodies which has now been exhumed. They left graffiti on the classroom walls, insulting Amharans and the Prime Minister.
The Tigray People's Liberation Front has denied such accusations and called for an independent investigation. Here is some of the graffiti written in the school library and the classroom. One of the students recounts returning to the school after the Tigrayan forces had left.
When I returned, there were bloodstains, broken desks, broken computers here and there. The TPLF had used the school as a hospital, which is why there was so much blood.
The deputy headmaster of the school said he had to mobilise the local authorities to exhume from a mass grave the bodies of soldiers and civilians killed during the fighting because of the psychological impact it had on students.
They refused to attend school because the compound was a total mess with blood here and there. We worked with the community to bring them back. All the teachers went door to door to persuade students to return.
Further north, near the town of Sokoto, the UN provides schooling for children displaced by the conflict. But many of them are also traumatized from witnessing the fighting.
My brother died in an explosion while he was playing with his friend. I have seen many, many bad things. I even saw people killed after having their limbs cut off.
The Director of Education Cannot Wait, a UN-funded non-profit, says education can play an essential part in helping children, like Batukan and Aiten, build resilience to trauma.
You see family members, parents, siblings, raped, killed, injured, and a child during the formative years to see all this violence or the subject of the violence will logically become traumatized. And that's why mental health and psychosocial services are another very existential, life-saving component of education.
She adds, while food security and access to water are essential to people displaced by war, education is also essential in the long term if countries are to build back effectively and avoid future conflict. For the 1.39 million students entering their third year of missed school in Tigray, the consequences will likely be felt for the rest of their lives. Henry Wilkins for VOA News, Gashena, Ethiopia.
As Africa struggles to feed its population due to climate change, poverty and conflict, the Horn of Africa and parts of East Africa are experiencing their worst drought in 40 years. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies says millions of people in these regions are facing a large-scale food insecurity, and more than 5 million children are facing acute malnutrition. For more on this alarming reveal, I'm joined live via Skype from Geneva, Switzerland by Jagan Chapagain, Secretary General of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. He recently visited communities in East Africa that are impacted by the growing hunger crisis. Mr. Chapagain, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
Start by telling us what you witnessed in the northern part of Kenya.
As you were reporting, we saw actually a very difficult food insecurity situation impacting almost 20 million people in Horn of Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia alone. And 14 million of them are actually, some people use the word on the verge of starvation. I witnessed a very high level of malnutrition. The Ileret town I visited, I was told that the global acute malnutrition rate there was 53.6%. And as you know, the 15% is considered an emergency. So this is almost 4 times higher than what constitutes an emergency. Large number of animals died, and these are agro-pastoralist communities. And for the last 2 years, they didn't have rain. So no new food production, the animals dying, very high rate of malnutrition. And in this particular village, of course, the very, very basic health facilities and the nearest health referral hospital is 500 kilometers away in Marsabit County. So, of course, if there is a health issue, I was told that it's an 11 hours drive. So very, very acute food insecurity situation I witnessed.
And what would you say are the major drivers of this food insecurity in that region?
I think it's a number of reasons. Of course, the climate change has massively impacted not only Africa, many parts of the world. But nature is not the only cause for this. As we have seen cycles of droughts and food insecurity in Africa, some people told me that the current food insecurity situation is worse than the one experienced in the mid-80s. And we have seen cycles of drought and people dying out of hunger. Just in 2011-12, we know more than 200,000 people died because of food shortage just in Somalia. So there are reasons beyond just the nature or the climate. I think there are systemic failures of development that hasn't reached some of these populations. I think there hasn't been sufficient investment on development issues, the agricultural issues, but also sufficient study and analysis that whether the pastoralist way of living is sustainable in many parts of Africa. So while there is a very direct impact of the climate change, there are also other reasons which is driving this food insecurity.
Mr. Jagan, in the report that came out of IFRC, there's a report about 5 million children facing acute malnutrition. What is your organization seeing in parts of Ethiopia and also in Somalia?
Of course, I personally went one day to Kenya. I didn't manage to go to Ethiopia and Somalia, but I was told that situations are very similar. As I mentioned, just in this place, I visited 53.6% malnutrition rate. I visited the basic health facility there, which was full of children which were severely malnourished, and actually they needed a special treatment in the health facility. So I think, out of 14 million population who is, very highly food insecure, almost 1/3 of that population is children. And this, of course, immediately impacts their health. But you can also see the long-term impact of people so severely malnourished at this age. It will have a long-term cost on the health services and, of course, their own personal well-being. So it is, in my view, a very serious situation which requires not only national attention but also international attention. And of course, it is understandable that right now the huge attention is in Ukraine crisis, and rightly so. But we also need to realize that the Eastern Africa, 90% of their wheat imports comes from Russia and Ukraine. And now,
what's the impact of Ukraine war, very briefly, on the continent?
I think the first has been, as I was just mentioning, that the 90% of the wheat import came from Russia and Ukraine. That is, of course, very badly impacted. That means the already food insecure population have to face with the significant price rise. In a number of countries, the price rise has been already 40% compared to the last 5 years average. And there has also been increase in the energy prices. And as you know, when the price goes up, the energy price goes up, it again impacts on all other costs. So the people who are already food insecure have to now face a second challenge that is of the price rise and high inflation because of the crisis in Ukraine.
Mr. Chapagain, thank you very much for your insight. Jagan Chapagain is Secretary General of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. There is tragic news out of Burkina Faso. The government says 8 missing miners were not found in a refugee chamber inside a flooding mine. Ida Marlin has the details.
Rescue workers in Burkina Faso have found no survivors in a refugee chamber deep inside a flooded zinc mine, the government said on Tuesday. That announcement all but extinguishes hope that 8 missing miners could still be found alive after a month. The Pecoa mine, owned by Canada's Trevally Mining Corporation, was abruptly submerged on April 16th. Torrential rain had unexpectedly fallen during the country's dry season. There had been some hope that the missing men might have reached the refuge chamber, which is stocked with food and water. But on Tuesday, the Burkinabe government's information service said the chamber had been opened and was unfortunately empty. Everything suggests that the miners were unable to reach the refugee chamber, the statement said. Trevally also said the chamber had been found intact with no one inside. Distraught relatives of the missing men have been gathering every day at the site in the Sangui province, seeking solace from each other as they face the agonizing wait for news. Both the company and the government have launched investigations into the causes of the incident. Ida Mullen, VOA News.
We'd like to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, a South African startup aims to reduce the gender digital divide. We'll be right back.
Empowerment and humanity towards a better world.
Economic and social progress of every society.
Facts and information from key players rather than spectators in politics, business, science and technology.
City, rural, educated or underprivileged. We care and we listen to what matters to you.
Your voices are our voices.
U.S. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden paid their respects on Tuesday to the families of the 10 black victims of a shooting rampage by a lone gunman in a supermarket. The president blames the media, politicians, and the internet for spreading the dangerous white supremacist ideology that the gunman appears to have followed. VOA's Laura Bowman has more.
Unspeakable sadness among the families of the 10 victims of Saturday's shooting rampage in Buffalo, New York. Last week was Celestine Chaney's birthday. Today, her family mourns her death.
I'm Celestine Chaney's, her only son, her only child. My feelings, anger, hurt.
Chaney was one of 10 mostly older black adults killed by a lone gunman who shot them at a grocery store while live streaming it. Wayne Jones watched his mother's death online.
He shot my mom once. My mom was laying on the ground. He went and reloaded. And he shot my mom again.
The 18-year-old suspect, Peyton Gendron, being arraigned here in court wearing a hospital gown, pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder charges. Authorities say that he espoused white supremacist theories online and that he believes that immigrants are overtaking the white race. It's a theory similar to that of the 2019 Christchurch, New Zealand gunman who opened fire at 2 mosques, killing more than 50 people. Today, U.S. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden paid their respects to the victims and met in a closed-door session with their families. Then the president addressed the world.
What happened here is simple and straightforward. Terrorism. Terrorism. Domestic terrorism. Violence inflicted in the service of hate. A hate that through the media and politics, the internet, has radicalized, angry, alienated, lost, and isolated individuals into falsely believing that they will be replaced by the other, by people who don't look like them.
The Buffalo shooting and others have again rallied gun control advocates in the U.S. who say it's way too easy to purchase a firearm.
It should really say to us that there should be sensible gun control in this country, and an incident like this can happen anywhere in this country, urban, suburban, rural, it does not matter.
In fact, there were 4 deadly mass shootings in the United States this weekend, including one at a church in California. To all the victims' families, precious lives lost.
My sister survived breast cancer and 3 aneurysm surgeries to go to the grocery store to get killed.
We are just people. You know, you strip all the tags. You're a person. And somebody gonna be hurting if you're gone, because you don't come back.
Laurel Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
It's time for our technology segment, and joining us now is our tech reporter, Paul Ndiho. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Esther. Premba Tech, a South African-based startup, is working to reduce the digital gender divide. It empowers women and the youth in the suburbs of Johannesburg with computer skills training, boot camps, mentorships, and internships, and more importantly, job placements. I recently spoke to Precious Nyarambi, a social entrepreneur and founder of Premba Tech.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
You are an entrepreneur who is, so to speak, all over the place when it comes to technology. What are the tech trends in South Africa? What have you been up to?
We realize that we are moving into the fourth industrial revolution. We are already in it. But there are still areas that are not serviced, that are not functional, that are not operating at full capacity just because the IT space is not fully appreciated or comprehended or maybe even implemented. Premba Technologies, we training women on a free basis that don't know how to use computers, right? That's our social responsibility part. But there's a part that is servicing organizations, you know, through different things that organizations might require. It can be a bank. We are growing into that space. It can just be any organization or a government organization that needs to upgrade.
There are those people who look at the use of technology as something that is very far and away from their reach, that they can't access it. Do you think anybody, as we speak, can really succeed without tapping into this technology that is available to us?
I think as a people and as an organization, people must continuously aspire to grow. People must evolve. Otherwise, you become irrelevant, you become redundant, and it's the worst thing that can ever happen to a business, is to find yourself obsolete. And as an entrepreneur, it's important for us to be versatile enough to be agile. You know, like let's get things going. What's happening? What are the trends? And I feel like the IT space gives you enough adrenaline because you cannot be redundant. It's really moving at an alarming rate, where a lot of things can now be done online. Sales can be done online, and so you cannot be left behind and still think that you can make an impact. A person must really evolve, go and just check what's the trend. How do I upskill myself? How do I remain relevant? How do I remain on top of my game?
Speaking about trends, what's trending in South Africa in terms of technology? What's everybody talking about?
The space is evolving on any level. If you talk of accounting, it has been synchronized with IT. Sales is synchronized with IT. Digitization is the in thing. Everything is now, there are solutions that are being deployed through IT, and you can't be left behind.
What technologies have disrupted the entire system from your vantage point?
I think that this massive introduction of apps, you know, they are convenient, they are relevant, they are timely. A whole lot of things can be done through an app. And I feel that it's really a serious disruptor, and a lot of things can be implemented and done quicker, easier. And the whole like e-commerce thing, a product can be purchased online, and then you tie in the courier part where now you source the deliveries guys and all that. Deployment can be done online, a lot of things. And you see, like, even just the introduction of a lot of meetings online, that space has had to grow as well. I think a few years back, we were not fully aware of Zoom. We were not fully aware of even this platform that we are using now, that we can have a live conversation on Skype, that you're recording, linked into a lot of other support systems. So I feel like there's been a lot of disruption around online meetings, online sales, creating your media presence, leveraging on the ordinary social media handles that we used to have. Twitter introduced Spaces. People are having serious, massive meetings on Spaces. LinkedIn has become so busy. People are doing their live meetings there, their conferences there, the same with Facebook. So I think a lot of people caught it, and they are evolving with time, but they've been predominantly maybe in the tech space.
On that note, thank you so much for your time, Precious.
Thank you, Paul.
That's today's Tech Report. Back to you, Esther.
Paul, thanks. Be sure to join Paul Ndiho every Wednesday for the Africa 54 Technology Report. The annual surfing competition was held recently on Liberia's coast in a fishing town that is gaining worldwide recognition for the quality of its waves. Clara Frank has more.
Surfers recently flocked to the beaches of a Liberian fishing town. This is Roberts Sport, the epicenter of the West African country's increasingly popular surf culture. It's also garnering global attention for its high-quality waves. Among the attendees at the town's annual surf competition was South African surfer and entrepreneur Andy Davies.
The waves are incredible. The waves are world-class.
He traveled to Liberia with Swiss NGO Provide the Slide to distribute surfboards collected in Europe.
What you have in Robertsport is up there with the top in the world, and I hope this place gets to grow and develop through surfing.
Liberia has struggled through years of conflict and health crises. Indeed, surfing was first introduced to Roberts Sport by aid workers. They would catch waves while local kids watched from the beach and later gave lessons. Musa Shannon, a businessman and former soccer player who had fled the country with his family, returned 14 years ago to open the Nana Lodge on the beach.
Surf has been good to us. It's given us a lot of notoriety. It's brought a lot of attention. It's brought a lot of international recognition. Most importantly, it's given the young people of Robertsport an opportunity to express themselves in a sport that they never knew before.
62 competitors entered the competition. Some, like Robertsport resident Morris, worked early in the morning sorting fish before taking part. He went on to win, claiming a $100 prize, while the victor in the junior competition took home $25. Clara Frank, VOA News.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.